Hey guys, Chris Clothier here with REI Nation, and I'm coming off of a conversation I had on the website biggerpockets.com. If you've never heard of this, I talk about it quite often. It's only the largest collection of real estate investors in the world. It's a site where they go to have forum discussions and learn a little bit about real estate, share with others. Great place to find connections. And I've been on there almost since the beginning, since it was first founded. I've been commenting and kind of sharing information on there since 2008. But recently, one of the things that has been brought to my attention, and it comes really into focus on this site, is that investors are making what I believe is a really big mistake when they are kind of planning, researching, and getting started buying a single family rental property. Because the mistake is that they're looking at it, investors are looking at it in terms of this 30-year projection or this lifetime projection in some cases. Now, before I go any further, I always talk about, my typical investor to REI Nation, they're thinking long-term. They're absolutely thinking this is a generational investment. This is something I'm going to pass on to other members of my family, which is a great way to look at how am I going to deploy my capital? All right, this is an investment I'm making that I want the investment and whatever growth it has to pass on to the next generation. That doesn't necessarily mean the piece of property, that address you buy, will be the same address that is secured by that investment over time and 20, 30 years from now when it gets passed on. That's the concept that I want to talk about real quick, because I believe, and I've found the most success, and from talking to investors that have done business with us over the last 2 decades, some of them that have been the most successful, this is the same way they view their investments. That, these are 5 to 7 to 10 year investments. And that's the way they view it going in. Now, could it last longer? Absolutely. And could it last shorter? Well, we hope not, because we want it to be a little more stable and a little less transient. We don't want it to be, changing quite as often. But a 5 to 7 or 7 to 10 year investment fits perfect. And during that time period, we as investors, we want to figure out, how can I make this particular investment achieve maximum results? And the one way you don't do that is by holding down cost, deferring maintenance, trying to keep your, I would call your input into the investment as small as possible. To me, the best way to make an investment perform in a 5 to 7 year period is to eliminate all deferred maintenance. Have none. Because you know that during that time period, there's a high likelihood you have no CapEx. The better you are at managing and keeping a property occupied, you can hold down maintenance during that time period. So if you can achieve certainly anything better than industry average. Industry average, I think, is somewhere around 2 to 2.5 years occupancy. So if you can get into a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6 year occupancy for a property, hold down the maintenance while you're there. Have no CapEx, because you didn't leave, a problem at a property to be paid for later in time. No, you fix everything on the front end, then it's going to perform at its peak for those first 5 to 7 years. If you use a 30-year mortgage, everything that you do to the property, all the stuff that you spend, all the money you spend on the front end fixing it, you get to borrow 70 to 80% from the bank of those costs. So fix everything that you can, get your property performing at peak performance for a short window, that 5 to 7, maybe 7 to 10 year window. Because between now and then, you're in control. You get to pick as an investor when's the best time to cash out of that investment, possibly make a new investment, 1031 exchange into new properties again. But don't look at your investment as, I need to go on ahead and from day one account for a 30-year hold. So I don't need to be planning for 30 years of capital expense and maintenance. That's to me, unrealistic based on what we've seen and the actions we've seen, especially the best investors that we've met along the way. They've all viewed it as, I want to create chunks of time. I want a 5 to 7 to 7 to 10 year hold, and I want maximum performance. And at any given time in there, I get to decide when is a good time for me to possibly, I'm going to be cliche, but take some chips off the table, cash my winnings in, and then reinvest. And if I continue to look at these 5 to 7 year time periods, and I want to continue to invest in a like new portfolio every single time I go, then I'm actually, in the next 30 years, I will make 5 to 6 investments, and I will be I'll make 3 to 6 investments, and I'm going to maximize my return every single time I go. Instead of thinking I'm one and done, I put my money in, that's my investment. That's not the best way to look at it, in my opinion. I get asked this a lot. It's really been coming up a lot here on Bigger Pockets because people are thinking of these 30-year investments, and I got to start accounting for 30 years of cost. And the reality is that that's not the way most single-family investments work. That most really are a shorter-term hold. And even if you're going to invest for the next 30 years and you want generational wealth, you can make multiple investments along the way. Seek to maximize that short time period while you can, and then have the freedom of decision later to make that next investment. Hope that helps. Guys, like the channel, like the video. Let us know what you think. Ask me questions. I'm happy to engage back and forth. And until we get a chance to talk again, guys, look out for the next video series coming up very soon.